The 2024 NFL Draft has finally arrived, and several Utah Utes will soon hear their name called. We're breaking down how all of their games translate to the NFL on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are available on all platforms, including YouTube and wherever you may get your podcast. If it's your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments as well as on social media, where you can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 wins or lose when you visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by a friend of the show, Ryan McDonald of the Deseret News. And Ryan, we have arrived at NFL Draft Day 1. And I do want to say this off the top. I do not expect any of the Utah players we are talking about to hear their name called in the first round. Last year, it was awesome to hear Dalton Kincaid's name called there. 2 years ago, we saw Devin Lloyd get his name called there, but this year won't see any guys in the first round. We're going to see a lot of Utes, I feel like, get drafted throughout. Just giving an overview of this class in general, Ryan, of Utah football players, I think there are a lot of quality players in this class, guys that early on, maybe a couple starters early on, but mostly some guys who will start out as depth pieces, and I could see playing in the league for several years because their skill set is what the NFL is currently looking for.
Yeah, you're right. The draft is fun, but yeah, with the chain, a couple years, didn't it used to be where it was like the first 2 rounds on the first day? I think it might have been. Maybe I have that wrong.
Maybe and maybe you're in NBA mode. I know you got that NBA hat on backwards.
Maybe the viewers won't be able to see. I got my NBA hat on. Yeah, the first, so that first day, kind of, if you don't have someone in that first 32 picks, it's kind of, might be able to sit out tomorrow in terms of watching the action. But yeah, no, I think you're right. And then Utah, I think, has proven, under Kyle Whittingham to produce NFL caliber players. And I think, there might not be the first rounders like there has been in recent years, but yeah, I think you're exactly right. We'll maybe go into names here in a second, but yeah, I think there are a couple guys who can be, again, maybe not Thursday, but on Friday for sure. I think can hear their names called, and then maybe several on Saturday.
Yep, and you mentioned we're going to go into names in a moment. That moment has arrived, as I want to talk about some of the Utah players in particular that will be hearing their names called. First, I want to talk about a guy who, at this moment of recording it, a day before the draft, I expect to hear his name called first. It's going to be very close between Cole Bishop and Jonah Ellis. Will be very tight to see who hears their name called. As of right now, I'm going to go with Cole Bishop, which pushed me to say he's going to get drafted first, is the report we saw from Jim Nagy, who was the director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, saying that NFL personnel was a lot higher than Bishop than it seemed like kind of the media was. And I think it makes a lot of sense why people are high on Bishop, right? First, if we're just looking at the numbers, which the Utah Athletics website posted a great breakdown of all the individual players and a quick little snapshot of their careers. Bishop was, fantastic. You're talking about a guy who played in 35 career games overall, 29 starts. And when I think of Bishop, I just think about the exceptional tackling and how many times I watched a play where it was like, everyone on, like, the offense has everyone blocked up, but there comes Cole Bishop breaking through, making a play behind the line of scrimmage routinely, and so many times kept big plays in check. Just such a skilled open field tackler, so skilled in the box too. He can take on some blockers too to help free up his teammates there. His strength is phenomenal. His sideline to sideline speed. He can cover too a little bit in the box, right? Like, he's not going to be able to stick with the speediest guys in the NFL by any means of the imagination, but he can definitely stick with tight ends, I think. And there's some certain slot receivers and stuff that he would be able to hold up with for those 3 seconds until if you're sending a blitz to get home and things of that nature. So just a really skilled safety, got nice intangibles too there. I think he's a great leader, and I think he's a strong culture fit too for a number of NFL teams. Is a guy that I think is a real shot to be a starter day one. And for all of you who say that is unlikely, so was it that he would start as a true freshman at Utah, yet he was able to do that. So I'm very high on what Cole Bishop could bring to a future NFL team.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I think he's a dog. I think he's got some dog in him too, and I think he's a good blitzer, from as a safety.
Yes, great point.
I've been just kind of looking at some things. It kind of looks like a lot of people are saying he's the second best safety in the draft. Obviously different people are going to have different opinions on where they rank guys, but I've seen him often be considered kind of maybe the second best safety in the draft. It kind of looks like there's not going to be any safety taken real high in the draft, and so yeah, I think you're looking at maybe end of the second round, maybe beginning of the third round for Cole Bishop. But yeah, I think he is the type of guy, and I think he's smart too. You might have said that, but I think I get the sense that he's really smart, and so I get the vibe that he will be able to pick up whatever defense he lands in, on, and I think he'll be able to pick it up. And yeah, I think there is every reason to think he can make an immediate impact.
To your point, when you said Cole Bishop the second best safety, I was like, whoa, I don't know if that's the case. But then I thought in my head, I'm like, I've looked at a lot of mock drafts, especially like ones in the first round, and I don't remember seeing a safety go. So sure enough, I really quick just Googled up ESPN, the draft rankings that they have, and they have Bishop, to your point, listed as the third best safety. I don't think there's a big difference between him and, some of the other guys selected in that range too. So it does show you this isn't the greatest safety class. And I'm not saying as a diss to Bishop. I'm just saying the fact that you're not going to see any safeties probably go in the first round overall, but his talent, his skill set, and how about the 40 time too? That's something that also really boosted his stock. Was he impressed everyone with his speed and ability to run there? And speaking of impressing guys with speed, that's what Sione Vaki was able to do last season as a real dual threat weapon for Utah. Man, when he emerged offensively as that extra running back, just the speed he offered, and just that big playability was something the offense had really lacked the first half of the year till he shifted to that side of the ball. And defensively, we know what a standout safety he is. He's another really strong tackler to me too, a guy who can cover pretty well too, coming down the slot. And yes, is not your ideal maybe back end safety always, but another guy like in the box, because look, the height is always going to hurt him a little bit in coverage, but he's got good instincts, good reactions. And I'd much rather draft a guy where I'm like, well, he's a really good player, he's just not tall enough, rather than he's got the height, we just need to coach up the other things. Like that would make me more nervous. I really like Sione. I will say, seems like he's going to fall a little bit. Mentioned the ESPN draft rankings. A quick pull-up of that. We'll see. They have him listed as their 20th ranked safety overall. I think there are still some concerns, as we mentioned. Might help Sione to come back for another year just because of maybe some of those slight intangibles and things that he is lacking at the NFL level, at least as scouts have graded him. But he's a guy I still see going in the 5th or 6th round. Maybe he'll go a little farther back than that, but I just feel like that versatility is something that some NFL team is going to want to have on their sideline, Ryan.
Yeah, and this might end up becoming a foolish comment, but I think it'll be interesting to see if anyone tries him on offense.
Yeah,
just given what he was able to do, and I do think maybe some fans might look at that and say, oh, he did everything. He was our running back, he was our safety. He did everything. How is he only going to be a 5th, 6th, 7th threat, somewhere in there. But I do think that, bear with me, people, size matters, I think. Is that hopefully that's not like FTC comment, size matters. I think it's safe. But I think it does. I think those things matter on some level. I think you're right. In terms of, yeah, you want a guy who can play football regardless of measurables, but I do think that is going to hurt him a little bit. But yeah, I'm still interested to see if some team out there, one of the 32, is like, let's see if he can be a running back at this level. But no, I think he'll make his money at safety probably. And I do think he needed to come out though, just because of the versatility that he showed. I'm not sure his stock would have risen. I could be wrong. I'm not sure his stock would have risen much more, just based on all that he did last season, playing both sides of the ball. I think it was smart, but we'll see. Yeah.
To your point about Sione, well, number one, you're absolutely right on his height. I mean, you can click on the ESPN draft profile that I've mentioned a couple times now, and the first thing they say is he's built low to the ground. Like that's the big negative. So that's exactly what you're talking about. He's only 5'11", and even those height things, they usually bump up an inch or two anyway. So that's going to be a real issue that he has to work through too. It was weird he ran a slow 40. It was a 4.62. It was actually the third slowest 40 at the combine because his 10-yard split was 1.54, which is incredibly quick. So that's where it's weird for me to be like, oh, he's not fast enough. Like I don't see that because I see the quickness there too, but maybe there are some concerns for that level. Sione has always been a weird one to me that teams haven't been as high on him because I really liked him at the college game, but those are the transition to the NFL level. And I do get the height. The height issue is for sure one as well, especially if you're going to be tasked with covering these big receivers. We saw even a guy like Clark Phillips last year, as good of a corner as he is, get mossed because he's just doesn't have that height on his side. So going to be really interesting to see where the two safeties go. But mentioned right now, I feel Bishop's going to be the top Utah player drafted. Jonah Ellis could very well be that guy. We got to talk about where we feel Ellis's range in the NFL draft will be in one moment. But first, want to talk to you all about one of the sponsors of our episode of Locked On Utes today. It's our friends at Monopoly Go. With Monopoly Go, I love it because I can let out my competitive side, and that's why Monopoly Go is perfect for me. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with your friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly. But now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboard show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with your friends and the people all around the world in time tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game now and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play Store. So make sure you guys head over to your App Store today and download Monopoly Go. Also want to talk to you all about another sponsor of our episode of Locked On Utes today, our friends at Gametime. Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. What I love about Gametime is there's so many wonderful features that make it easy to find and buy tickets, whether it's last-minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. They have all kinds of deals. And it's just easy to find and buy MLB tickets for every kind of event. You can also look at all-in pricing, which is something that shows you the total upfront with no surprise fees at the checkout, something that drives me nuts with other seats. Something that also drives me nuts about other ticketing sites is I don't know where my seat's going to be, what kind of a view I'm going to get because I don't get a view. Well, Gametime offers you seat views. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Also have that low price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. You can download the ticket coverage today, which is your purchase with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. You can download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON, capital L and locked, O and on, and C in college, but it's all one word, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Ryan, jumping into Jonah Ellis now. What a tremendous season he had last year for Utah. Just a sack machine for this program, what he offered off the edge. And I'm a big fan of Ellis's game. When you look at the way he used his hands, the variety of moves he can throw at defenders, and what is the most hottest commodity in the NFL outside of being a quarterback, maybe protecting him, it's getting after a quarterback. Jonah Ellis proved he could do that at a high level in college because of how skilled he is as a pass rusher. I see that translating to the next level. Now, he's not the fastest guy, so that's where I feel like maybe I think he ran an all right time, if I remember correctly, and once he was finally able to test, but still not an absolute burner, so that's why we see him falling a little bit. but I do like the length. I just feel like he's going to have a really strong NFL career. I think there's a number of places he's going to go to early on and be a reserve. And I would love to see him come in on those third longs. And, maybe he rushes from the inside his first few years and then to the outside. But I just don't see how Jonah Ellis makes it out of round 3 to me. There's a chance he could go in round 2, but I feel like for sure round 3 because he can get sacks and NFL team. And more importantly, he can get pressure because sacks can always be a little bit of a deceptive sack of a stat of like, okay, well, what happened that allowed you to get it? But Ellis can generate pressure routinely, and all 32 NFL teams are looking for players who can do exactly that.
Yeah. Once again, I agree with everything you just said.
Thank you. So I have you on just so you can agree and tell me I'm smart. That's why I appreciate you.
That's why you bring me on the show.
Exactly.
No, I think you're right. Exactly that. I think teams want guys who can get after the quarterback, and yeah, Ellis has proven he can get after the quarterback. I don't know if this is an overrated thing or I don't know, but I do also think it will help him that his dad is who his dad is.
Yeah.
Just in terms of knowing how the league works, knowing all that stuff, his dad can teach him that stuff and he probably already has. I mean, he grew up, in that sort of environment. And so I think that's maybe something that, is like a first round guy. Okay. If they don't have first round talent, but something like a mid rounder, you're going to be getting a player who is going to know how to be a professional. And I think that matters when you get, like you said, I don't see him falling super late. He might even get taken before Cole Bishop, maybe, just depending on how the board goes and team needs and all that. But yeah, I think teams are going to be able to they're going to get a professional because he grew up around the league.
I think you're absolutely right. And to your point about you didn't know, like you said, you weren't sure how people would take it when you bring up his dad's in the NFL. The very first thing that ESPN thing says when you click on Jonah Ellis' draft profile is his father was a Utah American defensive tackle, Luther Ellis. So they're thinking the exact same thing. The ESPN mock draft has Ellis projected as 10th. So can be excited to see where he goes. But you were absolutely right, Ryan. That is definitely something that I think teams consider and look at too. So Ellis is the guy. We feel like it'll go Bishop, Ellis, and then it gets kind of interesting from there. And I know we already talked about Sione, but that was because I just kind of wanted to loop the safeties in together. And there's a lot of hype around Sione because he did things on offense and he made a lot of tackles. And look, compared to the next guy we're going to talk about, Sataoa Laumea, it's just not a flashy position offensive line, but it is one that has a lot of value in the NFL. When you're talking about Sataoa, you're talking about a guy who I believe will move back inside and be a guard. And when you just look at what a road grader he was in the run game, I think he's been tremendous for the Utah the past few years as a run blocker. Been pretty good in pass protection too, but look, just watch the game like the one against Latu, who is going to be the first probably defensive end off the board, maybe him and Dallas Turner, depending. There's some medical stuff with Latu, so it probably will be Turner. But look, Latu won that matchup overall, and those are the games like that where it's like, okay, move him inside. And I think that's where Laumea would be a lot better because inside, if you're not the greatest pass blocking offensive lineman, you can be protected a little bit more. And I think he does well on the inside in pass protection. It's harder on the edge because you're going against the top guys like that. So he is an elite run blocker. I think he could step in the NFL and do really well as a run blocker. Might need to grow a little bit in his pass protection, dealing with some of the guys that he still will, even though I think he'll be better dealing at interior pass rushers than edge rushers in the NFL, which is what he would be routinely facing. But because of the position he plays, because of how well he played it at Utah overall, he's a guy I expect to go in the first 4 rounds. I think somewhere in that 3rd to 4th round range is where I kind of expect to see Laumea go.
Yeah. I remember it must have been last season. Sorry, JT, but offensive linemen, they don't get the love. They don't get the love.
Ryan. It's disgusting.
You know that. You know that they don't get the love that they should. And especially a guy like Laumea. That dude, like you kind of just said, he was just solid for a long, long time, and I think he's going to be able to bring that to an NFL team. Yeah, is he going to be a star? Maybe not, more likely probably not, but is he going to be? I think he showed at Utah that he can be a really, really solid player, and kind of feels like a guy who might just be able to stick around. Who knows? Who knows if that'll prove to be accurate or not, but it does just kind of feel like he's a guy who, might not ever make a Pro Bowl, might not ever, be, but just a guy I think who can just be really, really solid. If he gets the chance. Obviously, all these guys fit matters. He's got to go to a team that he can get a real chance. But I think if he does, I think he's the sort of dude that even if he's not spectacular, he can just kind of stick around.
Yeah, nearly 50 starts on the offensive line overall. ESPN has him ranked as their 5th overall interior guard. And, it's not the only guard that Utah has that's ranked. And I spoke too soon. ESPN did not rank Keaton Bills. Thanks, ESPN, for ruining my tease. Most people have Keaton Bills at least ranked, and some have him projected to be drafted. I feel like he should at least be drafted in the 6th or 7th round. And we are going to talk about why in one moment. But first, I want to talk to you all about our great friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL draft is here, and that's not all going on. It's playoff time in the NBA, NHL, and of course, baseball season is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And speaking of FanDuel, there are so many fascinating odds you can bet on here. Do you feel like the top 3 picks are going to go chalk of Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May? You can head over now to FanDuel and bet on that. Do you have a feeling that, I know exactly what's going to happen at number 2? I would not recommend betting on Caleb, who's going to go number 1, because it's going to be very hard for you to win money doing that. But there are a number of fun bets you can make on the NFL draft right now. I'm a huge Vikings fan. I'm very curious to see if they're going to trade up and get a QB. Lots of fun happenings going on in the world of the NFL. So make sure you guys head over before the NFL draft tonight and place your bets today. All right, Ryan, closing this one out. Going to talk about our final 3 Utah players that are projected to get drafted. First one being Keaton Bills, a really solid offensive lineman for this Utah team at guard the past 2 seasons. I think his first year in the NFL, he projects as a backup and maybe eventually could become a starter in the long term. I think he does a good job in the run game, but I do think there were a couple of inconsistencies as it pertains to being an NFL offensive lineman that might hold him back too. And in pass protection, there were a couple of miscommunications he had too, were just things, once again, you can't have in the NFL always, but those are very much things that are fixable. I see him as a guy who has a chance to go in the 6th or 7th round. Could very well go undrafted too. And speaking of undrafted guys, that's where the next 3 guys are going to fall. Devon Vele, Miles Battle, Thomas Yassmin, all of them probably going to go undrafted. Really quick on Devon Vele, a long, big, athletic receiver, a guy that I think you just want in your building. Bring him in as an undrafted free agent, give him a chance to fight for a roster spot. One thing Vele, he's going to do is he's going to set the tone as it pertains to blocking. So for NFL organizations like the 49ers, I feel like a team that would just like to have him around in camp, just as like, okay, this is the type of guy who's going to block. Now, is he going to crack their receiver rotation early on? No, he'd probably be a practice squad player, but give him time and eventually work his way up, because we know how hard Vele works, does have that long wingspan as well, so allow him to bring in balls in different ways as well, and can still do some nice things as a route runner, just not at the level of an NFL guy right now. Miles Battle, a skilled corner who had a pretty strong year at Utah too. He's got some nice intangibles, had some inconsistencies at time, and isn't the biggest guy out there either, but still a guy I think, give him an opportunity to undrafted free agent camp and let him fight for it. And the last one is my Utah draft crush, Thomas Yassmin. I'm a guy who likes to bet on traits. Thomas Yassmin has those in spade. Didn't have go great for him at Utah last year because he simply got hurt. But Yassmin is a guy who absolutely has a chance, to me, if he landed in the right situation, of being able to contribute for a few years to an NFL team, just because you are talking about 6'4", 245 pounds. So I'm excited to see where Yassmin ends up. I think that's more of a luxury pick for teams like I don't know, maybe just the Chiefs to be like, hey, he's bigger, stronger, and faster than a lot of the guys. Get him by Travis Kelce, and then we'll kind of see what happens from there. But I'm really curious to see how for these last 4 Utah players, because I do only think the first 4 we mentioned are going to get drafted. Bills is a maybe. I go back and forth on him. Even as we're talking it out right now, I'm still unsure on him. But how do you see the back of the draft going for Utah?
Once again, I think you're right on. Something about Vele. I like Vele just because he's a big dude. Like, it's 6'4", just a guy who, he's not super fast, but maybe a guy who you can just kind of launch the ball up to and you can go get it, with that height. So I don't know. He's one. I could prove to be completely wrong, but it's like, I think he might have a chance just with that size and frame. The rest, I think you're spot on. They'll have to fight for spots, but see what happens. I think that's what makes the draft fun is you get guys who are 6th, 7th rounders, undrafted free agent, who come out of nowhere and, become awesome players. So I think that's why it's so fun.
Ryan, before we get out of here, quick quiz questions for you. I got 2 of them. Guess how many starts Yassmin made in his 6 seasons at Utah and how many catches he had over his career?
Not that many starts.
Yes.
9.
You gotta give a number, though.
9 starts.
Okay.
And played 4 years, 52 catches.
Okay, so it was actually 6 seasons. But I will say this. You nailed this. It was 10 starts. So you basically nailed the starts.
Okay.
This surprised me about Yassmin, too. He actually only had 22 catches for his entire career because I feel like I can remember so many of them. So that's where it's crazy. It's like he only had 22. I can remember 10 of them off the top of my head so quick. So, that's one of the strange things always in the NFL draft. And especially like when you're dealing with a guy, it's like, oh yeah, I just remember the best moments. I don't remember everything else. But it is always a crazy time of year. Got the NBA playoffs going on too, Ryan. There's a lot to try and keep track of. Everyone wants to try and keep the sports world straight. Where should they check out your work at?
Deseret.com. We got it all. DESERET.com.
Awesome,
and you
Ryan.
Can follow me on X right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ryan W. McDonald below on X. Ryan, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. We'll be back with you tomorrow. As we said, by the time you've watched this at any point in the day, none of the Utes should have been picked in the first round. Tomorrow, going to have some fun with Porter Larson. We're going to talk about where we'd like to see some of the Utes go because several of them could hear their names called on Friday and more on Saturday. We're still rolling on with Utah draft coverage as the 2024 NFL draft is here, so make sure you keep it with Locked On Utes.